Hi everyone, welcome to Virtuality. It is Wednesday, September 9th, and I'm actually bringing you this Virtuality from Boulder, Colorado. I'm so excited to be working with the Tea Spot right now, and I couldn't ask for a better company to be a part of. I'm just thrilled to be on board. Today we're going to talk about a tea that is very near and dear to my heart and to my family. We're going to talk about Russian Caravan, and I thought that that was appropriate because it's actually snowy out here in Boulder, Colorado today, and so I really wanted to make a tea that was super cozy and wonderful to kind of drink on this cold, wintry day on September 9th. So we're going to talk about Russian Caravan. Like I said, Russian Caravan is incredibly dear to my family. My mother is Russian. She is the founder and CEO of the Tea Spot. You know her well as Ms. Maria Uspensky. Both her parents are Russian. While she was born in the United States, she was raised in a very Russian household. She actually only spoke Russian up to about the age of 5 years old. And she actually passed that tradition very lovingly on to both my sister and me. We were raised to really value, Russian tradition and Russian culture. And I just have such a fond memory of growing up and feeling very Russian in our family, even though I was born in the US and I actually don't speak Russian. But whenever I drink Russian Caravan, this tea, it just brings me right back to what I imagine our ancestors felt in Russia, which I think is so cool. So I'm actually going to get this going ahead and brewing right now while I tell you a little bit about the history. So first of all, this tea is so smoky in flavor if you've ever had it. It's so delicious. As we were joking today, it's definitely the smokiest and sultriest of the Tea Spot teas. So I'm going to put quite a bit in, and I'm brewing it with boiling water. Okay. So tea actually came to Russia from China originally. A Cossack actually brought tea from China to Russia via Mongolia in about 1616, so not as early as you'd probably think. And it totally caught on with Russian tradition. Russians loved drinking tea, and it became a staple of their culture. In 1689, the Russians signed the Nershinsk Treaty with China, which basically opened up trade in between China and Russia and opened up what we now call the Great Silk Road, otherwise known as the Great Tea Route, because tea actually traveled so frequently from China to Russia. Now, as you can imagine, it takes about months to get from China to Russia, and at this time, 1689, they were traveling via camelback, so it was a very slow process. So they would actually load up these camels in China with a ton of tea, nice black tea, and then it would take months to get to Russia, and so of course they would have to make camp every night on their way to Russia. And so at these camps, they would make campfires, and the tea would be sitting near the campfire. And as you know, black tea really takes on whatever flavor it's near. And so this tea actually really absorbed this kind of smoky flavor of the campfires. So by the time it arrived in Russia, this black tea had a super smoky quality to it, which the Russians totally loved. I think it makes sense. It pairs well with Russian food. Russian food is pretty intense, very flavor forward, and I think it totally makes sense for the Russians to have loved this smoky tea. Fast forward a little bit, Russians absolutely adopted this tea into their culture. The Tsars all loved it, and it became a really integral part of Russian food and cuisine. My own mother always would serve us tea, like every day we would come home from school and she would have tea served for us, which I think is such a wonderful tradition. It's really similar to kind of the Latin American coffee culture. Russians actually typically have tea pretty much every single afternoon. In fact, Russia is actually the country that consumes the third most consuming tea country in the world, behind China and India. So tea is incredibly important for them. The other thing that you might have heard about with Russian tea culture is the samovar, which is actually a really inventive invention that was made that is actually part kettle and also helps brew the tea. And every good Russian family has a nice samovar in their living room or in their kitchen, and they're often ornately decorated and often really on display in that family's household. So I think it's really cool. Our family actually brought their own samovar from Russia, and I think it's just so cool that, you know, that's a part of our family history as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the tea spots blend. I like personally steeping this for a long time. That's probably not quite right. So Russian Caravan is actually a blend that kind of encompasses, it's not just the tea spots blend, but a lot of other companies have a blend called Russian Caravan. And in our tea spots blend of it, we have oolong tea, puerh tea, which we talked a lot about on Virtuality, black Assam tea, which is the tea that you find typically in breakfast teas, and then this tea lapsang souchong. And lapsang souchong is actually a Chinese tea that is dried over a pine wood fire. So it takes on this really, really smoky quality, and it's the perfect tea to use in this blend because it's basically is such an homage to this kind of camel trek and campfire camping that the tea originally went on. So that's why we include lapsang souchong in this blend, is to embody that smoky quality of the tea. And if you smell it, it's so smoky, it's almost spicy that it's so smoky. And then it's so full-bodied with the puerh and the oolong and the Assam that it's kind of, it hits your tongue in all the right places. It's never, you know, too bitter forward, and it's definitely not too smoky that it doesn't have the good astringency of the bitter. I just think this is a beautifully blended tea. It's definitely my favorite Russian Caravan, and I think it's the perfect thing to drink now that it's snowing outside and we can kind of imagine ourselves back in Russia, you know, making that trek along the Great Silk Road. I think that's such an interesting image to kind of have in our heads. So please order yourself some Russian Caravan. If you haven't tried it yet, it's definitely a tea to try. It is so unique, and I think it is so just such a beautifully blended tea. It's absolutely my favorite. As my sister is commenting, it is her absolute favorite, and that is true. She buys it every single month. So please join us tomorrow for another Virtuality and a special announcement from my mother. And it was so nice to talk to all of you today. Happy steeping.